Hello and welcome to this presentation where Becky Sharpe from Homes Victoria, Ian Adams from Organic Engineering and EcoMod, and myself, Trivess Moore from RMIT University, will discuss the implications for policy and practice from a low-carbon public housing development in Victoria, Australia. Victorian State Government conceived and funded 4 sustainable low-carbon houses in the Victorian regional location of Horsham. This region was selected because of its extreme temperatures in both winter and summer. The intent behind these houses was to be able to test and evaluate their performance, both from a technical, a financial, and a social perspective, both from the government's perspective as well as the occupants, in relation to informing and providing feedback for the state government in terms of reviewing and revising their own internal guidelines for minimum requirements for their housing moving forward. RMIT undertook a 3-year study of these houses, and we'll be touching on some of those results in the coming slides. Ian Adams from Organic Engineering will now discuss some of the technical and design elements of these houses.
Hi, my name is Ian Adams and I'm an environmental engineer. I want to talk to you about the Horsham key sustainable design features. The project was really designed with ESD as a primary design objective. The features we included were reverse brick veneer, so we had massive thermal mass on the inside of the building and that was insulated on the outside, which is the opposite of how buildings are normally built in Australia. It was rated to 9 stars, which means that it was a very low energy demand. We predicted 25 megajoules per meter squared. We included 5,000 litre rainwater tanks, which is much larger than the standard in Australia. We had solar hot water system to provide a lot of free hot water from the sun and a large, well, for the time, a large solar photovoltaic system, primarily to run the fridge and the interior appliances. And we really focused on passive solar design. So the buildings were orientated with living spaces to the north. We had clerestory windows that could open to ventilate the building, and were really optimized to keep the summer sun out, but to let the winter sun heat the building. Other sustainability initiatives included efficient lighting, water efficient taps, an innovative toilet with a cistern over the top that recycled the hand washing water, and also some basic features like composting and room for a vegetable garden. The project had a comprehensive eco-monitoring system that monitored the gas, water use and the circuits within the building. So this included a 1-minute metering of total power use, but also down to the minute metering of electrical sub-circuits such as lighting, general power outlets, oven, solar hot water, etc. We were also able to measure the water produced by the rainwater tank and separately get data about the total water use from the utility water, also gas for heating and hot water boosting data, as well as temperature logging for the internal living area. And the final bit of data we were able to get was outside temperature from local weather stations. So the Internet of Things approach that we used allowed us to get this comprehensive data remotely with permission from the occupants for both research and also for some maintenance purposes. And this was set up through the mobile phone system to allow easy access to the data. We believe the benefits of the sustainable design approach with the Internet of Things monitoring was that it allowed us to quantify the benefits, both financial and comfort benefits for the occupants. It allowed us a nuanced understanding of the actual performance of the building rather than just how we thought it would go. And this was able to be integrated into future projects. The system also had the capability to automatically pick up when the solar or the rainwater systems were not working, and therefore allow us to better optimize our maintenance and also increase the fairness to the occupants. It's not always obvious when an electrical or pump system's not working, so the O2 system assisted the occupants in knowing when things were actually going well. And it also allowed us to enhance and optimize our engagement with the occupants around sustainable behaviours by having some real data and feedback.
From a technical perspective, the houses performed very well. You can see that the households purchased significantly less of electricity and water and slightly less in gas, and had 50% less CO2 impact in comparison to department standard. You can also see in the figure that thermally they performed very well. So you can compare the green line here, which is a control house, standard 6-star house with air conditioning, compared to the grey line, which is one of the low energy 9-star houses without air conditioning during a heat wave, and you can see quite a significant temperature difference there.
Hello, my name's Becky Sharpe. I work in a sustainable design role for the state's housing body called Homes Victoria. I'm involved with policy and projects which are integrating and delivering sustainable solutions into homes for people in Victoria. My role in this study was to commission and project manage it for the state. Broadly, we have understood from projects like this Horsham Catalyst that homes with low bills and steady temperature are highly valued by our vulnerable clients. I'll go through some specific findings for the tenants who moved from other public housing into these Catalyst homes. They had lower bills, on average $1,000 a year, and had reduced stress and the burden of these bills compared with the standard public housing homes built in the same year. Residents reported the experience of reduced stress due to the reduced bills shown here in these quotes. It is easier. I don't have to stress that, oh my God, I'm going to have a power bill come in. And another household, have I had money come in? Yeah, sometimes I've had like $200 credit, like with power, and if I sort of keep it going all year, and then at Christmas time, I just take what I've got in credit to spend on presents, food, just Christmas in general. There were general health and well-being effects for residents too. In this photo, you can see the shaded equator facing clerestory windows that let in the winter sun and let out the heat overnight. Together with the ceiling fans, a large amount of thermal mass, this means that indoor temperatures can remain comfortable most of the time without the need for air conditioning. Unlike in poorer quality housing, occupants found that they did not have to evacuate the buildings to go to air-conditioned public buildings or to pools during heatwave conditions. In fact, in the middle of a summer heatwave in Victoria, one of these low-energy houses was found to be up to 16 degrees cooler compared to the control houses with air conditioning. One resident speaks of being able to stay at home during very hot weather rather than going to sit at the supermarket. Occupants also reported fewer hospital trips and other well-being improvements. This resident speaks about being able to use the economic heater very often. I've had pneumonia and I've had it 3 times, and my partner's had it twice. We can't afford to get it again, not at our age. In an incredible achievement by a resident, she found her home had supported her to stop receiving regular government financial support. She says, and I no longer have to rely on any Centrelink benefits, anything like that. I don't like being dependent on a cheque coming in every fortnight. This Horsham Catalyst study has demonstrated the numerous dimensions of value in sustainable architecture and engineering solutions on the lives of this cohort of vulnerable tenants. Alongside the numerous other post-occupancy studies we have commissioned, there are more and more findings that support and quantify the interconnections between housing quality, residents' health, the public health system, and the environment. We are getting a more sophisticated understanding of how the design brief and specifications for housing can lock in a significant extent of the household's living costs and quality of life. And this follows through to health costs to the individual, the public health system, and environmental impacts. If the housing fabric and appliances are not supporting a vulnerable tenant to keep the indoor temperatures safe whilst having affordable bills, then the use of medical emergency services is increased and the resources footprint is larger. When considered scaled up to the new residential buildings of a state's asset portfolio or a city's housing, the imperative for ambitious policy and project settings is clear. This Horsham Catalyst project was one of the pieces of research which supported the formulation of revised settings for new social housing that Homes Victoria has been building. Now I'll take you through what kinds of standards we have set for new social housing in the last few years and for the next sizable tranche on the way. Since 2017, for lower density houses and apartment buildings not more than 3 stories, we've been building to this standard: 7-star using NatHERS, our regulatory national house energy rating tool, which models the thermal performance of a building. 6 stars is the minimum. We also build using only electric energy in the home. In other words, there are no gas appliances. We're using heat pump hot water units and air conditioning. This is a significant step on the carbon neutral pathway for social housing. Our guidelines also include the installation of a rooftop solar photovoltaic system. Over the last couple of years, we trialled some new settings for some of our higher density apartment and precinct housing projects. 7-star NatHERS average for the apartments, and we added in the requirement to achieve a 5-star Australian excellence level using the Green Star tool. This tool is created and managed by the Green Building Council of Australia, and that provides independent certification to support our organisation to receive the quality and the performance of the sustainability initiatives that we've specified and paid for. In addition, we have committed to an evaluation framework covering broad social, economic and environmental dimensions, and we'll use it to undertake post-occupancy studies of these buildings once occupied. In November 2020, our State Premier and Minister for Housing announced a $5.3 billion program of housing work called the Big Housing Build. This program will deliver the single biggest increase in social and affordable housing in Victoria's history. This major package focuses on new buildings, so it represents an incredible opportunity for delivering decarbonisation to some of the state's households most in need. Building on the sustainability work mentioned in the last slides, the mandate is that larger developments will meet 7-star NatHERS and be certified 5-star Green Star. We want to ensure best value for the planning and the dollars that goes towards high quality housing. To this end, we have worked closely with the Green Building Council of Australia to determine which credits in their tool would focus our effort and expenditure on aspects that provide our organisation with the best fit and, importantly, provide our clients with the most value. Our procurement approach has been to mandate certain points which will return a high value to social housing tenants. For example, airtightness of the building envelope, climate change adaptation measures, improved acoustic performance between the apartments, alongside water and energy efficiency, of course. We've identified with the GBCA the opportunity to work to further this social housing focusing of value and hope to formalise it into a social housing pathway within the tool. This would help to make decarbonisation in affordable housing more accessible to community housing organisations and their tenants.
So as we heard from Becky, case studies like that presented earlier on are really important for informing and refining policy as it relates to sustainable housing. What we need to think about into the future is how do we expand more broadly the focus around low carbon housing from being a technical issue to include those social benefits and outcomes. Public housing and social housing providers are really key stakeholders in this space, and through the economies of scale and their access to different supply chains, they will be able to help shift and drive this transition both in Australia but also internationally, and show what can be done in this space. However, there are some challenges. These include the ongoing balance for social and public housing providers needing to provide more houses, balancing that against making those houses of higher quality and more sustainable. And so as the cost to deliver sustainable houses decreases, we should start to see more of these houses being provided to a higher standard and quality. We also see that there are some questions still around how much of that active or passive design do you put into these houses, and how much do you rely on the occupants to be able to operate these houses efficiently compared to making them more automated. And we see that through the Internet of Things and the monitoring of these systems, we can pick up things that aren't working much quicker. So for example, rather than waiting 2, 3, 4 months to pick up that a PV system on a property is not operating properly, this can be picked up much more quickly. And when you're talking about low-income households, this is really important for ensuring that it's not impacting on their finances moving forward. We also see that just more broadly, we need to be increasing minimum standards, and we see that the department in Victoria has been delivering housing above minimum standards for a number of years and continues to lead the way and show that it can be done and can be done cost effectively. And we need to remember that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We know what works in terms of design, in terms of technologies. We just need to have that buy-in from industry and from policymakers and the community to be able to deliver low carbon housing and making sure that we're not leaving people behind on that transition to that sustainable urban future. Thanks for listening to this presentation. If you want further information, you can contact Becky, Ian, or myself, and our details are on the slide here, or you can access the final project report or any of the related journal articles also listed on this slide.